Tonight, we dive into history with Dr. Tomasz Borowski, the curator of the Polish History Museum, whose latest exhibition, titled 1025, The Birth of the Kingdom, commemorates the 1000th anniversary of Bolesław the Brave's coronation as a King of Poland. Join us as we explore the stories, artifacts and landscapes that shaped the birth of the Polish kingdom. Tomasz, thank you for coming here.
Thank you for having me.
So, your latest exhibition, could you tell us what is the most priceless artifact?
We have two, actually. They're both lended to us from the treasury of the Gniezno Cathedral, Archcathedral, actually. When Poland was born, Gniezno was its first capital. It was the most important archdiocese in the region, in the realm. So naturally, the most important objects are held there. We were fortunate that Archbishop of Gniezno agreed to lend some of his treasures for the exhibitions, and this includes the so-called royal chalice of Trzemeszno. It's a priceless example of early Romanesque art. It's a silver and gold chalice that depicts various scenes from the Old Testament, but among those scenes, there is a scene of a coronation of King David. This is relatively important because we don't have any contemporary representation of the Polish coronation. We know that the coronation took place, but there is no iconographic material that would show how it looked. So the chalice shows that.
So do we know for sure that the coronation took place in 1025? Are there any other dates possible?
That's a good question. We're sure it happened in 1025. It's commemorated in several sources, especially from the empire, so from German sources. However, in Polish literature, local historians tend to point to the Synod of Gniezno, the meeting of Gniezno that took place in the year 1000, that this was the moment when Polish king was crowned. We know that the German emperor, Otto III, put his own crown on the head of the Polish ruler, and for many in Poland, that was the coronation. However, from outside viewers, for sort of European public opinion, this didn't do. They didn't consider Poland kingdom. They only started considering Poland to be a kingdom after 1025. So that's why, in many ways, this anniversary is a bit more important than the anniversary that took place 25 years ago, because that's the moment when Italy, Hungary, German imperial court starts to recognize Poland as a kingdom.
So these dates you're talking about are known to every child, every adult in Poland. So who do you think your exhibition is for? Is it more for Poles, or is it more for guests from abroad to learn more about our history?
Hopefully both. The team of curators that prepared that exhibition, I'm part of that team, we are archaeologists. So the exhibition focuses on lived experience, as we try to present the Kingdom of Poland as it appeared, as it was experienced in the 11th century. So we put less emphasis on the dates of battles, international treaties. We believe this you can learn in history books. But we have a lot of interaction, a lot of archaeological objects. We want people to smell, to discover smells of the medieval period, to touch different textures of different types of wood, different types of stone. So we hope that on different levels, both children and older people, and both people from Poland and guests, or people who didn't go through Polish education system, would still enjoy it, because it's a very interactive exhibition.
So how do you tell these diverse stories? Because it's obvious when it comes to kings, there are portraits, there are swords, there are chalices, but what about the peasants? What about the nature of medieval times? How do you do that?
One of the starting assumptions of our exhibition was to combine objects that usually are reserved for prestigious museums, like the Golden Chalice. Or we also have the diadem of Płock, one of the oldest Polish crown made of pure gold with sapphires, rubies, pearls. These are very prestigious objects that usually only travel to prestigious museums, like Louvre, National Museum in Kraków. But we combine these objects with archaeological objects that are usually presented separate in various archaeological fairs or archaeological museums. We believe that this division is artificial, because in the medieval period, the same guy who would participate in a mass with a golden chalice, he would eat boar, he would construct things out of different types of wood. So we combine objects from sort of two different realms, and that's how we combine the story, because they present the same story, even though they're so different. The golden chalice, golden crown. We believe that it's part of the same story as remains of fish bones or macrobotanical remains of fruits. Because sorry, I tend to talk a lot of these things.
Well, it's fascinating, but no, it's absolutely fascinating. But I would love to know, how do you persuade these different museums, these different places to actually lend you those priceless objects?
Well, the anniversary is a good occasion. Also, we started the exhibition a bit earlier. The 1000th anniversary should be on, we don't know the exact date when the coronation took place, but most people assume it was on Easter. So March, April 2025 would be the 1000th-year anniversary. We started a few months earlier because this allowed us to borrow objects a bit earlier. Also, the exhibition was possible because of a cooperation of public, state museums and church museums. We were fortunate that two bishops, especially Archbishop of Gniezno, but also Bishop of Płock, where the diadem, the oldest crown in Poland, is preserved, that they got involved in the project. So this required a lot of visits, a lot of talking. Also, they wanted to have insight into the scenario, to see how we will present the question of Christianization, the question of the creation of the Polish community. But in the end, I think they were satisfied.
Which really neatly links with my next question, and that's about, did you show the pagan Poland? Because in medieval times, the pagan Poland coexisted with the Christian Poland.
Yes, we do. There is the exhibition is divided into several parts, into 5 parts, and the last part is called The King and the Cross, and it talks specifically about religious change, religious transformation that took place in Poland. Poland, in this sense, is unique because in most countries, Roman Empire being the most famous example, Christianity started from the bottom. First, the poor people accepted the new faith, and only later the rulers. In Poland, it was the other way around. The king was the first, the prince was the first to accept Christianity, and the poor people sort of joined in later. Also, we don't use the term pagan because people who identify as pagan today are sort of identify with that tradition. They argued that this is a derogatory term. It's a Christian term that was used in a derogatory manner. So we say non-Christian beliefs because it's not a unified system. Various tribes, various communities might have had different. But we do present objects, cult objects, sacrifices, animal sacrifices. We try to be honest about it. I promise I'm almost finished. That we don't know a lot about non-Christian religion. So we present some of the things which we know, but a lot of, we dive sort of in depth into questions what we don't know. We don't know the name of various deities. We don't know the significance of sacrifices. This we have to interpret on the basis of archaeology, and this is always uncertain.
So a thoroughly modern exhibition. So in that vein, did you tackle the nature and role of women in early medieval times? Do you show any famous and significant, strong female figures?
We do, actually, yes. The main historical part is entitled Three Kings, because we have 3 kings from the 11th century. But actually, half of the narrative deals with women in the 11th century, because Poland is fortunate. We have quite a lot of very interesting and fascinating female characters, especially Gertrude. Gertrude is the daughter of a second king of Poland, Mieszko II, and she is the first Polish writer. In the age when we don't know how many people in Poland could write, we know that she did, and she had her personal prayer book, which survived to this day. And in this book, we have dozens of personal prayers. They're very intimate. Gertruda had a long life. She traveled across Europe. She visited Rome. She visited Kiev. Kiev, of course, she was princess in Kiev. And in those personal prayers, she describes her troubles, her worries, her aims. This is a fascinating, high-quality medieval literature, and we believe that Gertrude should be taught in schools, basically. Other than that, the first queen of Poland, Rycheza, she provided military support for her son. She played a very important, positive role in the Polish kingdom. Also, Agnes, the abbess of Quedlinburg in modern Germany, she minted her own coins. So she was not only a religious figure, but she was also a secular ruler. So yes, there are men and women in the exhibition. narrative about women is perhaps more original. We believe that this is something that might be of particular interest.
Well, it certainly will, because by the sound of it, your whole exhibition just does away with the whole Dark Ages narrative, which is, you know, that's very old history. How do you feel your audience will feel about this period of Polish history after seeing your exhibition?
I hope they will see it. The younger ones, we wanted to create a sort of fairy tale narrative because, you know, medieval period is often associated with fantasy, with computer games. So we tried to sort of pinch some facts into it. But we want to counter the stereotype of people of Dark Ages people being poorly educated, living short lives. This is not true. You have a whole section about medicine. Many children died, but once you reached the age of 10, you had high chances of living up to 50, 60, even 70 years old. So the fact that people lived shorter in the medieval period, that's not true. It's not true that they ate simple things. We have a whole selection with macrobotanical remains, fruits, pears, apples, honey, wax. So the image we try to present is that of a diverse kingdom with different languages, with different sources of income, because we also we talk about trade. And also about, apart from objects of everyday use, we also present human remains, which was a bit of a controversial move. I know not everyone wants to see human remains in an exhibition.
Well, children do, for sure.
that was my impression. Yes, they were fascinated by it, but we covered them just in case someone doesn't want his or her child to see it. But we talk about medicine, and we have various interactive multimedia panels when you can sort of meet and talk to an imaginary person that lived in an early medieval stronghold. We called her Gniewosądka, which means it's an early medieval name, but we gave it to a lady. And you can ask her several questions about her daily life, and she explains what did she do, what her family did, and then we provide sources. How do we know this? For example, we know how long she lived because of the bones. We see what type of illness she went through. So yes, we try to talk about ordinary people as well, not just Slavs, but also minorities. So there is also a section about Jewish community, which the roots of the Jewish community are early medieval in Poland, 11th century, but also Scandinavians, Rus people, Ruthenians basically from Kiev, Scandinavians, Balts. So ordinary people, not just Slavs, all the different communities that contributed to the creation of Poland.
Well, I'm absolutely fascinated by this medieval person that you created, Gniewosądka, which almost sounds like angry, judgmental lady. So are these medieval names completely different from the Polish names that we used to, you know, your Kasias and your Tomashes?
Not necessarily. For the first 300 or 400 years, there was a dominance of Slavic names, and only with Christianity, Christians' names like Krzysztof, Thomas, or Monica, they started to appear, but they're not mutually, there is no contradiction between them. Some Polish names, like Stanislaus, they sort of entered the Christian calendar because we had a saint, Saint Stanislaus, the patron saint of Poland. So Gniewosądka is a genuine name. It's recorded in the later medieval period, but unfortunately, or perhaps not unfortunately, in the later medieval period, Slavic names slowly began to disappear and are replaced with Christian Western.
Well, what a shame. I would love to have a friend called Angry Judgment Lady. Well, such an exhibition sounds like a huge technical undertaking. Did you do it, you know, an interactive part, computer-generated part? Did you do it on site, or did you have a company that helped you to put it all together?
We had a company, and then that company had other companies. So it's a sort of a story of capitalism. We signed a contract with a single studio, New Amsterdam, and then that single studio hired specialists from various niches. So for example, for music, we have the oldest musical instruments. There are only few people in Poland who can play them, who can create copies. But then New Amsterdam, that main contractor, they signed sort of subcontracts with those other specialists, but we helped them find these specialists.
Yeah. That sounds absolutely, you know, like a huge entertainment, but really worthwhile. I'm sure our viewers and us especially will go and see your exhibition. Thank you.
I hope so. I hope you will like it. 500 exhibits, some of them made of pure gold, some of them animal bones, pottery objects, whichever you like.
Well, it sounds like an ideal historical exhibition. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, and that was a real amazing insight into the latest exhibition at the Polish Historical Museum. Thank you for watching. I'm Karolina Shapland, and this was Pulse of Culture.